How do you hire a sales manager? That's what you asked me down in the comments of another video. So today, I'm going to share with you how to hire a sales manager. Join me for that and much, much more on this episode of The Inside BS Show. Hi, it's Dave Lorenzo. This is the Inside BS Sales Tip Show. Today we're talking about how to hire a sales manager. I'm going to give you 6 tips for hiring the ideal sales manager. And then at the end of our show today, I'm going to give you the one thing you shouldn't do, the one mistake you can't make. You cannot make this mistake. It'll crush you. When you're looking to hire a sales manager, if you make this one mistake, it'll kill everything you've worked so hard for. So I don't want you to do it. I'm giving you that at the end of the show today. This video is part of our series. We're doing a whole series on sales management. So be sure and join me for the other videos. All right, let's dive right into the content. How to hire a sales manager. Tip number 1, start with talent. I don't want you focusing on anything but management talent when you're hiring a sales manager. I don't give a crap about industry experience. I don't care if they've ever sold anything in their life. I don't care if they know their way around the territory they're responsible for. I don't even care if they've ever heard of the company. All I want is someone who is great with people. You see, managing a sales team is like managing a high-performing sports team. Think about the 1927 Yankees. Imagine if you were managing that team, one of the greatest baseball teams of all time. All you have to do is remove the barriers, keep everybody happy, make sure everybody's getting the playing time they deserve, make sure everybody's using their strengths to do what they do best. That's the talent that person needs to have. They don't need to know how to hit. They don't need to know how to run. They don't need to know how to field. They don't need to know how to pitch. They need to know how to get everyone working together as a team, how to get everybody to use their strengths to excel, how to get everyone to perform at their highest level all the time, and keep everyone getting along. It's the same in sales. You need to look for a professional manager. Get someone with the talent to manage big ego, highly competitive people. You're looking for the manager of the 27 Yankees. That's what you're looking for. Don't hire from your competitors, because then you're going to import all the bad habits from the competitor you care the most about. Hire talented people who know how to manage highly competitive, big ego people. That's tip number 1. If you're ready for tip number 2, you need to come along with me right now. Point number 2 in how to hire a sales manager is focus on the process. You should have a process in place for hiring everyone, and a sales manager is no different. So your process should be focused on looking for the talent that is necessary to be successful in this role. Now you may be thinking to yourself, well, what do you mean, Dave? I just look for people who've had experience in my industry, who've had experience managing salespeople before, and that's always been good enough. Well, that's the wrong way to go about it. When it comes to hiring a sales manager, your focus has to be on a specific process that centers around the talent. Sales managers are not just the best salespeople who you elevate to a new role. That's not correct at all. You need to focus on people who are team-oriented, people who are talented in the management of large ego competitive people. Think about a professional sports coach, an NBA coach, for example. Think about Pat Riley back in the day when he was coaching the LA Lakers and the championships they won, or even the championship he won with the Miami Heat, or Phil Jackson, the championships he won with the Chicago Bulls. They had enormous talent on their team, but because these gentlemen were not self-centered, they were focused on bringing out the best in others, they were the perfect coach for some of the most talented teams in history. You must look for someone who's identical to that, someone who has those qualities of the ideal coach to bring out the best in big ego, highly talented professionals. So your process, the process that you're focused on when you're looking to hire a sales manager, that process must identify people who can manage big ego people, who can manage highly competitive people, who bring out the best in others. So as you're interviewing for this sales management role, you should be asking questions around specific sales management examples. So tell me about a time when you were a sales manager and you brought out the best in a highly talented team. Tell me about a time when you managed large ego professionals in order to help them become more successful. Tell me about a time when you managed a group of competitive people and helped them get to the next level. That's the process you should be focused on when it comes to hiring a sales manager. How to hire a sales manager, tip number 3. Look for relevant experience from other industries. I've told you already that you should never promote your best salesperson into sales management. That almost never works out, and you take somebody really good off of your team. So how do you find people who have experience that is going to be relevant? Well, in our last segment, we talked about leveraging talent and hiring people for the innate ability that they have to manage big ego people. I gave you the basketball example. Well, in business, we don't need someone who's had specific experience in our industry. We need someone who's had similar experience in doing what you're looking for them to do in this new role. So let me give you an example. I managed a large operations department for a corporate housing company in New York City about 30 years ago. And I brought in someone from Pepsi, somebody who handled distribution for PepsiCo, somebody who handled the distribution for beverages all over the Northeast. And I brought him in specifically to help me create and manage routes for housekeepers in and out of the tri-state area of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. This was a complex process, and he had never worked in the hospitality industry before, had never worked in distributing linens and moving around housekeepers and work crews. He hadn't had that experience, but he had experience dispatching trucks and delivering product all over the tri-state area. So he knew about positioning assets and establishing warehouses and structuring routes for efficiency given the traffic patterns in the tri-state area. So I found that person with relevant experience, relevant expertise in the specific area I needed, and I taught him the industry. I taught him how to handle hospitality. I taught him all about the logistics of moving housekeepers around. This turned out to be a fantastic decision because it made us one of the most effective and efficient corporate housing companies in America. We were able to cover more ground, and we were able to turn that housekeeping department into a profit center. So looking for relevant experience from another industry was essential, and you can do the same thing in sales. Look for people who have experience enabling the success of others. Use the analogies that I've given you, and you will find a phenomenal, highly effective sales manager. Don't fall into the trap of promoting your best salesperson, or even worse, bringing in a sales manager from one of your competitors who's going to drag all those bad habits into your company. You don't want that. You want somebody with fresh ideas from another industry who's got similar experience. That is money in the bank. We'll see you in our next segment on how to hire a great sales manager. So we're up to point 4 in how to hire a sales manager, and you're wondering what you can use to measure whether this person is going to be successful in the role or not. I like to use the 3 Ps. You want to measure people, process, and productivity. If you're looking to hire a sales manager, you're going to ask them to share their experience with you with people, their experience with a process, and their experience with productivity. What does this mean? You're going to ask them for specific examples when they've mentored and groomed people to take their place, or when they've leveraged people to help achieve a goal, or when they've taken a group of people from a lower level of productivity and moved them to a higher level of productivity. You're also going to ask them for times when they've developed specific processes and leverage those processes to grow revenue overall. So processes are critically important. Finally, you're going to ask them about productivity. You want to ask them about their own personal productivity, how they get everything done during the course of their day. Then you're going to ask them how they've managed the productivity of others. What solutions have they brought to the table to manage the productivity of others? You see, you're asking these sales manager candidates for specific examples of managing people, of delivering on processes, and of improving productivity. Specific examples are the key for how to hire a sales manager. Ask them for examples, leverage those examples in deciding who's going to be your next sales manager. That is essential for how to hire a sales manager. This is tip number 4. Join me right now as we go back inside for tip number 5. Hey now, it's time for tip number 5 in how to hire a sales manager. So you've gone through the interview process and you're getting ready to wrap it up, and the sales manager candidate is about to leave your office, or they're about to sign off of the Zoom call. You're going to ask them one last question. You're going to say, Mr. Sales Manager Candidate or Mrs. Sales Manager Candidate, do me a favor, before we wrap things up, give me a sense for your creativity. Talk about a solution that you used in your most recent role that was considered creative and that helped your company or your team succeed. I'd like to hear, in your own words, a description of a story where you leveraged creativity. This question for a sales manager when you're hiring a sales manager is essential, and it's a great interview question because it will ask them to identify a specific story. They'll tell you a story, and if they don't give specific details, there's a pretty good chance they're using a hypothetical or basically filling you full of garbage, because those specific stories help us understand. They give us a window, if you will, into the decision-making process of the prospective sales manager. So if you ask for an example of creativity when you're looking to hire a sales manager in that interview process, and the sales manager gives you a good example, that's a creative person. If the sales manager can't think of a good example, say, all right, do me a favor. Think about it over the next couple of days and email me by, and then give them a deadline of 48 hours. Email me by Wednesday with an example of creativity that you used in a business setting. If they follow up and they give you an example, great. If they don't follow up, I wouldn't hire them because they can't follow your direction. So asking for an example of creativity, and by the way, this example of creativity, it doesn't have to be in business. They can give you an example of a creative solution they applied to something in their life. If they can't think of a business solution, let them think of a solution that is creative that they used in their life. So, for example, if they give you a creative solution for how they trained their dog not to walk in their kitchen, that's a great example of creativity. I'd take that. If they give you an example of how a creative way they got their kids to eat vegetables by baking the vegetables into the foods they liked, that's a great example of creativity. I'll take that too. So looking for an example of creativity is essential when you're trying to hire a sales manager, because they're going to have all kinds of problems to solve and they're going to need creative solutions. So tip number 5 for how to hire a sales manager: ask for a specific example of creativity. If they can't give it to you, don't hire them. All right, coming at you right now is tip number 6, and be sure and stay with us all the way through to tip number 7, because it's the one thing you don't want to do. You're going to want to wait for tip number 7, because if you make this mistake, it's going to cost you. Join us for tip number 6 right now. Now we're talking about point number 6 in how to hire a sales manager. And point number 6 is you're looking for someone who's calm under pressure. You want someone who can handle the heat. So it might be good for you to test this out in the sales interview process. Put them in a position where they have to do some sort of a presentation in front of a group of people. I don't care who that group of people is. It can be some behind the scenes people from your company. It could be people that you got to volunteer, but you want to see how this individual is in front of a group, because as a sales manager, they're going to be under pressure just about every day. They're going to be in front of a client. They're going to be in front of your sales team. They're going to be in front of prospects. So hiring someone who's calm under pressure is essential. So you need to build that pressure into your sales interview process. Again, have them do a presentation in front of people, put them on the spot, ask them questions, have them take a Q&A, make them uncomfortable, have them do things they've never done before, because in their role as a sales manager, they're going to face that exact scenario every single day. So hiring someone who's calm under pressure is essential. You can look for that experience, but you need to put it to the test during your interview process. So your sales manager candidates should have to make presentations in front of a group as part of the interview process. Be sure and join me next for our point number 7. And point number 7 is the one thing I told you had to watch out for. It's the one thing you can't miss. It's the one mistake you shouldn't make. Point number 7 is coming up right now. You wanted to know how to hire a sales manager. I gave you 6 tips. Now I'm going to give you the one thing you should never, ever, ever do. The one thing you can never do. The one thing that will kill you and your organization if you do it. Before I give that to you, I want to remind you this is just one video in a whole series on sales management. If you're a sales manager, watch the rest of the videos in this series. You can find them by clicking on that link right up there. The link will also appear at the end of this video. The one thing you should never do as a sales manager, never ever promote the best sales rep into sales management. That's the worst thing you can do. If you're looking to hire a sales manager and you're thinking about promoting your best sales rep, you're crushing 2 different areas of your business. Number 1, you're going to crush your sales team, because you're going to take someone who's got no experience managing anything, you're going to put them in charge of a whole group of people, and they're going to say, you should be able to do what I did. And people are individuals. You can't manage people like that. So promoting the best sales rep into a role where they're managing people is bad, because they don't know how to do it and they can't learn on the job. This is not that type of job. Managing salespeople requires sticking your ego in your pocket, and your best sales rep has a massive ego. He or she's not going to be able to do what you want them to do. The second area you're going to crush is you're going to take your number 1 performer, you're going to yank them right out of the field. That's going to crush your numbers. That's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt your business. It's going to be devastating. Don't do it. Don't promote your best salesperson into a role as a sales manager. Promote them by giving them more money. Put them on a pedestal. Recognize them all over the place. Don't promote them. Please don't do it. Don't promote them into being the manager. That's the 7th tip in how to hire a sales manager. I'm so glad you joined us. Join me in the next video. Click that link right now. I will see you in our next video in this series.